Hey, what's up guys? It's I, Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So today is my first video back. I took a break for moving. I moved a pretty fair distance away, and I am back official capacity today. So what I wanted to talk about today is saying a fond farewell to Soul Calibur VI. Now, we all know that Soul Calibur VI at this point is finished. Even the people that were ongoing for the last year talking about how there's still a possibility of a Season 3, we just need to wait. Those crowds have died down. I mean, the last update that we've had for the game in official capacity was Hwang Sung being released, which was on December 2nd of 2020, which it is upcoming on being 2 years since he came out. I mean, it's a fair distance away from 2 years, so it's about a year and a half, but suffice it to say that we're not going to be getting any new updates for the game. And that's why on this channel in particular, I've been talking so much about Soul Calibur VII, things that I want to see, things that I hope change, things I hope stay the same. And for those of you who've been on my channel for a while, you know what the deal is already. There's a plentiful amount of videos there, so if there's anything that you want to watch to hype you up for Soul Calibur VII, you will find it there. But what we want to talk about today is we want to go back and we want to remember some of our fond memories of Soul Calibur VI and some of the things that need improvement, let's just say. We'll try our best to be as amenable as possible. So the first thing that I want to talk about, this is point number one, is I had fun playing the game. That is definitely my number one point. It was the most important point or factor when it comes into playing any video game is you want to have fun. And Soul Calibur VI definitely hit the mark when it came to a plentiful bounty of single player modes and whatnot. Now, just like most other Bandai Namco published games, the netcode, of course, is horrendous online. So it's a little bit less fun when you're playing online, but the Libra of Souls mode added a really nice secondary supplemental story mode to the game that gave you something to do with as many characters as possible after you had already destroyed all of the Soul Chronicles and main story. The Soul Chronicles were also great because alongside the main story, instead of just leaving certain characters to the dust in the wind, we got a little individual story, or sometimes long individual stories based on individual characters and what their processes throughout this entire reboot of the franchise were doing. A lot of this stuff leads into a plentiful amount of new lore. There wasn't too many new characters that were introduced besides Gro and Aswell. There are some NPCs and whatnot and some returning characters and surprises, but a lot of the lore that really started building in this game is really what has me hyped for Soul Calibur VII. It's not so much what got me into the series, which is the gameplay and the fast-paced nature and the features. It's really the fact that after Season 1 ended, and we started getting the Season 2 characters, it really started ramping up the storytelling, especially when it came to Setsuka, and then ongoing through Hwang Sung Young. We have almost all of Soul Calibur VII laid before us, narratively speaking anyway, already telling us where the story is going and what twists and turns we can hope to expect. It's also got our imaginations bubbling with anticipation, hopefully that the things that we want to see and the storylines that we want to see covered are actually intertwined within that narrative. But the story and the narration really opens things up to a new world of possibility. So much so that even the people before who were saying that the next game is going to be retreading Soul Calibur 2 or Soul Calibur 3 have also kind of dwindled down our talking points when it comes to that, because they've seen how far off into left field that Season 2 has veered the narrative based on the reboot of Soul Calibur 1. So that has got me really excited, and that's something to be really happy about as a gamer. Oftentimes when it's coming for a new game, you're just you don't really, especially fighting games, esports has pretty much taken over as the thing that developers strive to get their fighting games into to sell more copies, because a game looks fun, people are having fun playing it, and it gets more people to possibly buy it than did before. So I can see from a marketing aspect why that would be the case. But even that being what it is, fighting games have always first and foremost been about competitive play, right? And there's those of us who actually really do enjoy the narrative aspects of it and enjoy the stories and what happens to the characters. This can't be said anything more true than the reboot for Mortal Kombat 9. the story in that was so amazing and it kept us enthralled throughout this new part of the trilogy. Something they can't say for that happened for the first 2, 3 up until Ultimate, even going into the PlayStation 2 era, which did have a fair, decent bit of narration, albeit through characters that we don't recognize but have come to recognize since then. But I think that did a good job of it. And Soul Calibur VI is another good inspirational tale of how you can work narrative into the fighting engine to make it more of an experience instead of just a match. A lot of the characters are so distinctive and different from each other that like you can actually feel the character's personality when you play them. That's why a lot of people have a lot of mains that they're not even maybe good at first, and they feel the challenge to master over time, is because they like that character and it forces them to learn every possible thing and counter to other people that play them and whatnot. So narration plays a lot more of a point to not just the story but also the battle mechanics itself, and that was something that Soul Calibur VI did exceedingly well. Now a step back that I do have to talk about is the creation engine, but it's not a step back in terms of innovation, it's a step back in terms of despite innovation. So they tried to give us these classes in which we can start with a base that may give us a better end result possibly, but what happened is they ended up locking a lot of the customization options, even clothing and accessories, behind these certain races, and even certain things that were amenable or unmutable. You cannot change or do anything with that you could have in the past, such as like the demon horns or whatever. Those were just all in the character. So if you didn't want a character, like for example when I tried to recreate Nightcrawler from the X-Men, that is the only class that has the demon tail, but Nightcrawler doesn't have giant like 4-inch horns like sticking out of his head, so no Nightcrawler for me in Soul Calibur 6 unless I get super creative. A lot of these things which were super accessible in Soul Calibur 5. Soul Calibur 5, which people do not want to mention that most of the time. But what I do like to say is, for all of the faults of the character creation engine, they did give us an extra 50 slots, and they did give us an extra 100 slots to be able to adjust cast characters, so we're not mixing cast characters with our regular original creations. And that download feature where somebody can upload a creation and other people across the world can download that creation instead of trying to recreate it for themselves, or as I would usually do is download it, try to exactly create it based on the specifications that were marked in the character itself, and then delete the character that was downloaded and try it again with a different one. This way you can fill your slots without having to worry about running out of space. I have seen complaints that people want more slots than 100 in the next game. I'm not exactly sure how much of a possibility that is. I think that would be dedicating a little bit too much time. I still haven't filled all 100 of my slots on the original character side. I'm at about 64. Now, that might also be because I'm not as invested in the creation engine in this game as I was in the previous title, because in Soul Calibur 5 you had so much more options available to you. Well, it's not even the fact that you have more options. Let me walk that back. Though there are things missing from Soul Calibur 6 that were in Soul Calibur 5 creation-wise, the options for mixing and matching and everybody having all access was a lot more inherent to that game than it is in Soul Calibur 6. Soul Calibur 6 seems to limit you a lot more, and it doesn't stop people like Dark Nemesis 666 and others from creating these fantastically awesome recreations of pre-existing IP within the creation engine. So obviously maybe I just need to stick more time to it. So while that is a drawback, it does also challenge you to be more creative with your creations instead of just making like discount Walmart versions of your characters, right? But with that being said, I will move on to another point of contention that I can also probably try to see if they can change in the future, and that is difficulty options. So a lot of people said that the difficulty in this game was non-existent, it was too easy. There are hidden paths within Libra of Souls that we've talked about on this channel before, where like challenging the Ancients after you master a blade, and then the 3 hidden bosses within Libra. There are some difficulty ramp-ups there, but Libra of Souls is the only place in the game where you can find like the stage earthquakes or any of like the transitional, like throughout battle, I I guess, effects that would be on a stage throughout the battle. A lot of that is limited to that. And I wish that like you could be able to actually access that in versus mode. Like maybe if you're setting up a special versus mode where your characters keep their level and their gear stats and all that stuff, you can also have like stage things that go on, like maybe turn on straight stage transitions, because the stages in this game were a lot more static and a lot less dynamic than they have been in the past, save for a few of the DLC stages, which actually were really good. I'm talking about the base game stages. But there's a lot to that can be played with, and a lot more options that can be given to the actual player, especially when we're doing versus, and that might just make matches even better. Like the more contingencies that you can give yourself and give your opponent, or your opponent give yourself as well, will just open up the game for more fun, in my opinion. So hopefully we get more options to customize the way things are played out in the next game. But remembering Soul Calibur VI is more fond than negative in my opinion. Though it started out not as such. If you go back to my first review of the game, I was not all too pleased with the package we were presented at the launch. But over time and throughout multiple features and versions that they have actually given us, I'm tend to saying that like Soul Calibur VI is a good Soul Calibur game. I'm happy overall with the package. Now there are drawbacks definitely, but it may be in my top 3 favorite Soul Calibur games just because of how fun it is and the narrative and all that kind of good stuff. There are a lot of things they did well, which you can see in other videos. This is just a retrospective, so I just want to say thank you, Motohiro Okubo as the executive producer. Thank you, Masayama on Twitter as the director. Thank you, all of Project Soul, for the hard work that you did and continue to do. And we look forward to seeing you guys with Soul Calibur VII. So that is going to be my finished retrospective, looking back and saying goodbye to Soul Calibur VI, because it's pretty poignant at this point that we're not going to be getting any more updates for the game until Soul Calibur VII releases. With that being said, I do think that there is still a lot of fun to be had in this game, and if you haven't explored all of Libra of Souls mode yet, I implore you to do so. There's endless hours of gameplay options within that mode just in of itself. And by the way, you don't have to just travel and spend the coins. You can fast travel, so there are ways of getting around all the menial things. And there are cinematics sprinkled throughout, though they are few and far between. So you're going to be reading walls of text, but that text is interesting and contains a ton of lore. Don't miss out on the library. Also, you can check out my playlist of going over things in the encyclopedia and the library, and also you can check out SolarFlare 95's channel, because he took that series and went with it where I stopped. So if you want a continuation of that, I would go give him a subscription as well. And subscribe to this channel if you like fighting games, especially Soul Calibur, and if you want to see more content like this in the future. And it's only possible with you guys and your support, so I thank you for the continued support. And here's to my 5th year on YouTube. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.